What's up, guys? Welcome back. So today I'm going to go over, quite simply, the differences between the Gen 6 and the Gen 7 NASCAR diecast. So these are the 124s, obviously, and I also have got... Where did it go? Apparently I'm a little slow here. I also have got the Gen 6 and Gen 7 Chevrolets, the Gen 6 and Gen 7 Toyotas, as well as the Gen 6 and the Gen 7 Mustangs as well, in terms of the 164. So we'll go over each of these, and you'll see the difference between the cars when it comes to the diecast. So I'm going to get rid of the 64s here for a second. We'll go over first the Mustangs. So Mustang here, little different off to the side. You lose out on the little fender flare. Nothing here on the 164s. Roof line, you've got definitely see a much bolder fenders on the Gen 7. The rear quarters as well. You've got a little more of a straight line off to the side, off the right side of the car. You've got the rear quarters, got a little bulge. It is completely symmetrical on the 164 on the Gen 7. So obviously looking at the rear, you can see the rear diffuser. Nothing on the rear on the Gen 6. It goes from just a pretty general Mustang, I assume GT, to the GT 500 front fascia. Rear ends a little more rounded back here, whereas it's flatter off to the back. You've got the rear diffuser, dual rear exhaust, visible here, and you've got nothing here. Up underneath, you can see the exhaust, you can see the transmission, chassis, fuel tank, the whole thing. On the Gen 6, you cannot on the Gen 7. The Gen 7 uses the flat underbody. Coming up here, you can see the hood flaps, but they're not bold, quite as bold as the Gen 6. Roof flaps are about the same, and you do lose out on the indent right here on the Mustang, and it bulges up here on the GT 500, and of course they just decal the hood as well. So big difference there in terms of the Gen 6 and Gen 7 on the Ford. Gen 6, Gen 7 Camaro. Again, all the same underbody. Obviously nothing's going to change there. The wheels are different. The exhaust port's different though, of course. You've got your exhaust port on both sides on the Gen 7. They don't even give you exhaust ports on the Gen 6s. On the front, they're very, very similar. If not nearly identical, you lose out on the little louver here. Nothing here. Same size grille, same... It looks like essentially they use the same decals on the 6 and the 7. I didn't realize that had a chip in it. Definitely different in the spoiler. The rear end, a little more defined Camaro-esque, whereas this is a little more squared off again. And then the Toyotas, these were arguably the same car, just a little more slanted in the back versus the bulge here. I'd assume this is a low downforce package, because look at the size difference of the spoilers. A lot more detail. Same thing with the vents and the arrow. But when you go up front, again, very, 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 very similar car. So now let's go bigger. Let's go big. Let's go 124s. So we'll obviously cover the blatant difference, and again, that is the Mustang GT, GT 500. Excruciatingly different front ends. You can see the hood vents. These are actually not real vents. Ah, crap, that chip is very noticeable now. Damn it. But these vents are just decals. There's nothing there. All decals, all decals. This is actually the only opening in the front of the car, race cars, is this right here. You cannot put tape on these cars. You can put tape on these cars. You'll notice the actual 3D where my finger lies. You got a smaller opening up front here versus here. But coming around the side again, far flatter, far more symmetrical. Off to this side, you've got a little more bulge. Get the bulge here. You got bulge on both sides on the next gen car. Let's talk a few more details here. So again, obviously the sides are very different. You've got the rear vents, the exhaust, little arrow bits here, smooth, nothing there. The 18-inch alloy wheels, what are they, 15, 16-inch steel wheels. Multi-spoke, drilled. I mean, everything's a little different. Much, much bigger, though, the brakes on the cars, and you can see that on both of them. Blatant obvious difference there. You've got a clear plastic piece for the window here. You've got a little bit of mesh netting, which is actually just plastic. The mesh netting is roughly about the same. This is a little narrower, I'd say, though, over here on the next gen car. Spoiler difference is pretty substantial here. You can see that. So the cars actually have slots in the rear windscreen. They're not actual slots, they're just little plastic indents. You can see all the tubing and everything on the inside. A little more detail in the interior there. So you've got the updated dash. You see it's a little more rounded here, a little more flat over here. All the computers and everything off to the right are the same, but the mirror is the same, and essentially the interior chassis, I was gonna say fairly similar, but it's not. You lose out on a little bit of detail. Over here, you can actually see the fire extinguishers inside. There are no fire extinguishers inside here. It's just a lot more flat off to the rear. Even though it does look fairly similar, the interior is pretty similar nonetheless. No matter what angle I look at this, I can't really see too much detail. Actually, you do have the fire extinguishers, except for it's pushed a little further forward. You can see them in there, right there. The big difference also is going to be up under the hood. And that is going to be an astronomical difference for those of you guys who pop the hoods on your diecast. Get the hood open here. So you'll see it's all flat and smooth. You do have the blue. We've got the intakes for the vents, which are actually just decals. As you can see up underneath, there's nothing there. It does say powered by Ford. That's pretty cool. But not a lot of detail under here. And this is just the ARC. Up underneath, just smooth, flat paneling, which is pretty much like the real race car. So I can't complain about that. Everybody says, oh, well, it's less detail. Well, there's nothing under there to look at. So it's really not less detail. Of course. Let me get the hood popped open out here. All right. But you can see, again, with the engine, blue, you got a little chassis here. Everything's a little more open. Still powered by Ford. Menards up top. A little different. But the only chassis you get is just this black pieces right here. So it's not quite as different color. And up underneath this plastic bit here, I don't know. if it is the same mold for the engine. I really can't tell. But what you can tell is firewall's a little different, firewall's a little different. Let's go out back, shall we? So, very minimal on the detail on the rear diffuser, but you do have the three-dimensional bits for the tail lights. Like I said, the big spoiler. You do have the dual rear exhaust, as you would with a from the factory GT500, whereas the old Gen Mustang, you don't. Still three-dimensional with the tail lights, although not quite as Mustang-esque. You got the much more rounded rear end here, whereas you've got much flatter. You can really see the difference there. So those are going to be your substantial differences between the 164s and the 124s in terms of the Mustang. Obviously, once I get a new Camaro and a new Toyota Gen car, I will do those as well. Another big difference is going to be the camera, the rooftop camera. You've got the rear as well as the front. The front is a lot bigger, flatter, more rounded, whereas over here it's a little smoother, a little more narrow, but nonetheless, looks like you've got a little wider, a little sleeker down on your A-pillars here versus here. Windshield's definitely different. Coming around side here with the windows, very, very similar. A little sleeker over here, in my opinion. I don't know if you guys see that. It's just me. A little sleeker back here than you do over here. So that is the 124, the difference between the old school car, or sorry, the older car and the next gen car, Gen 6 and Gen 7. Obviously, this is a race win. This is not, so we can't really compare the difference in terms of detail, but that's the car. Thanks for watching, guys. Let me know what you guys think. Do you like the new Gen 7s? You're not a fan of them? Have you gotten one of the new diecasts? Have you not? Do you intend on picking some up? Of course, guys, get to seriouslyfastmedia.com. We keep up everything as up to date as possible. I try to get everything up to date within 24 hours. I try to be a lot faster than that, but my guarantee is 24 hours up to date. Thanks for watching.